The ticking of the grandfather clock in my parents' living room had always sounded like a countdown to an inspection I was destined to fail. For 28 years, I was the quiet variable in the family equation, the daughter who existed primarily to fill the empty space in group photographs. My younger sister, Zoe, was the sun around which my parents' universe rotated, an entitlement so absolute that it eventually extended to the living creatures she collected. The true hierarchy of our household became devastatingly clear the year Zoe adopted an expensive, blue-ribbon French bulldog named Toast. Toast was not a pet. He was an aristocratic entity whose daily comfort, grooming schedules, and organic dietary restrictions dictated the entire family's calendar. I still remember standing in the kitchen, holding the heavy glass trophy I had won for graduating top of my class in corporate financial compliance. My mother didn't even look up from her laptop, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she reviewed custom silk outfits for Toast's upcoming digital photo shoot. "That's nice, Emily. Put it on the shelf in the hallway," she murmured, her voice entirely devoid of the warmth she used to lavish on my sister's minor milestones. "Make sure you don't block the frame of Toast's agility certificate." When I landed my first senior auditing role at an international firm, a position that came with a six-figure salary and an immaculate professional reputation, my father didn't call to congratulate me. Instead, he sent a text message asking if I could use my employee corporate discount to secure a premium reservation at a luxury pet resort for Zoe's weekend vacation. The deep mental toll of this constant, suffocating emotional neglect didn't make me loud or angry. It made me meticulously, dangerously quiet. I channeled the isolation into building an unbreakable financial wall around myself, saving every penny, securing an immaculate credit score, and locked down my assets behind multi-layered digital security. I became a ghost in their world, attending family dinners only to watch my parents feed Toast premium cut steak from silver plates while casually asking if I could cover Zoe's monthly credit card balances. Because I wanted to believe that a shred of maternal love still existed, I quietly paid those bills for 2 years, treating the money as a tax I had to pay just to sit at their table. But greed is a monster that can never be satisfied by minor concessions, and my family had been watching my clean financial identity with hungry, desperate eyes. The illusion of our fragile family dynamic didn't just crack, it vanished entirely into an icy void on a rainy Tuesday morning in late spring. I was sitting in my secure downtown office, the dual monitors displaying rows of complex forensic data, when a red high-priority alert flashed across my phone screen. It was a notification from a commercial credit underwriting agency requesting immediate verification for a newly approved $350,000 commercial mortgage. The application listed me as the primary guarantor and a permanent cosigner, my digital signature perfectly rendered on a stack of legal financial disclosures. A wave of pure, freezing clarity washed over me as I pulled up the source files, my fingers moving across the keyboard with a terrifying, mechanical precision. The loan had not been drafted by a faceless cybercriminal operating from an encrypted server halfway across the globe. The metadata linked the digital submission directly to the residential IP address of my parents' home, and the attached tax files were duplicates of the private documents I kept in a lockbox in my old bedroom. My golden child sister, Zoe, had walked into my sanctuary, broken the lock on my personal files, and stolen my clean financial identity to fund her ultimate dream. She had purchased a luxury, multi-acre pet breeding estate in upstate New York, an extravagant rural compound she proudly named the Golden Paw Kingdom. She had used my years of blood, sweat, and immaculate corporate credit to buy herself an empire of vanity, fully confident that her status as the favorite would shield her from any real consequences. I sat in my ergonomic office chair for an hour, watching the rain beat against the glass windows of the high-rise building, my heart rate entirely steady. A normal daughter would have called her mother to scream, or driven to the house to tear down the front door in a fit of hysterical rage. But my extensive training in forensic compliance had taught me that a loud scene is simply a distraction that allows guilty people time to destroy the evidence. I didn't shed a single tear for the family that had just signed away my future. Instead, I quietly opened a blank digital ledger and began to compile the avalanche. For 3 days, I lived in a state of absolute, freezing precision, operating entirely behind the scenes while my family continued to post photos of Zoe's new estate online. I gathered the complete forensic trail, the matching IP logs, the unauthorized bank queries, the timestamps of when my lockbox had been violated, and the digital signature overlays. I didn't leave a single loophole, constructing a financial trap so airtight that no expensive corporate lawyer could ever find a way to breach its walls. On Friday morning, while my parents and Zoe were away at a luxury weekend dog exhibition across state lines, I walked into their empty suburban house using my spare key. The air inside the house smelled of expensive pet shampoo and vanilla candles, the walls covered in framed portraits of toast while my childhood photographs were stored in the basement. I walked into the kitchen, pulled a heavy, black leather binder from my briefcase, and placed it quietly in the exact center of the polished granite island. Inside that binder sat the undisputed proof of my sister's criminal fraud, backed up by certified bank logs and federal identity theft disclosures. On top of the binder, I laid a crisp, single-spaced letter written with the clinical, unyielding precision of a federal indictment. "This is not an emotional departure," the letter began, the words typed in a stark, professional font that carried the weight of an absolute finality. "This is a permanent legal decoupling. Zoe has executed a fraudulent commercial loan using my identity, a felony offense carrying a substantial federal prison sentence. I have already submitted the complete forensic data trail to the Financial Institutions Fraud Division and the State Prosecutor's Office. Do not attempt to call my phone, do not send messages through our relatives, and do not show up at my place of employment. You spent 28 years treating my existence like a background shadow, and today, that shadow has officially disconnected from your world forever." I walked out of the house, locking the door behind me with a clean, definitive click, and drove straight to the airport to catch a flight to my new life. The reaction to that black leather binder was an absolute, catastrophic explosion that shattered the foundation of their artificially funded reality within hours of their return. The moment the bank's executive risk division received my certified compliance fraud report, they immediately triggered emergency asset preservation protocols. They froze every single one of Zoe's commercial development accounts, placed a permanent legal hold on the Golden Paw Kingdom property, and revoked the loan funding. Multi-agency fraud investigators were dispatched to review the corporate filings, and within 48 hours, the case was upgraded to an active felony identity theft investigation. My parents returned from their weekend trip to find their golden child's empire completely locked down by federal compliance seals and legal freezes. The true weight of the panic descended upon their household when the bank issued an ultimatum that left them entirely breathless. Because the loan had already been partially disbursed for the initial property deposit, my parents were informed that they were facing an immediate choice. They had to either legally acknowledge Zoe's fraud and allow the state to move forward with felony criminal charges against their favorite daughter, or they had to assume the entire $350,000 debt themselves. To save their precious golden child from a federal prison cell, my father was forced to liquidate his entire retirement portfolio and place a secondary mortgage on their home. The unearned luxury lifestyle they had used to look down on me vanished overnight, replaced by the suffocating weight of a massive, predatory debt they would be paying off for the rest of their natural lives. Zoe's dream of becoming an elite celebrity pet breeder died a sudden, humiliating death, her name permanently blacklisted in every financial institution across the country. The power dynamic had shifted completely, and for the first time in my life, I held the absolute monopoly on their peace of mind. I sat on the balcony of my new apartment in Chicago, looking out at the glittering lights of the skyline as my phone began to buzz with a relentless influx of blocked notifications. I had changed my number, routing all family communications through a secure digital proxy that archived their desperate messages into a locked folder I never intended to open. Sometimes, out of pure, clinical curiosity, I would review the transcribed text logs, slowing down the pacing of my morning to watch the slow-motion collapse of their pride. The early messages from my mother were weaponized bursts of pure, defensive fury, screaming that I was an ungrateful monster who was trying to kill her own sister out of jealousy. How dare you do this to Zoe over a simple business misunderstanding? My mother's words screamed through the digital transcriptions. You have plenty of money, Emily. You always have. You are destroying this family's health. Your father is having chest pains, and poor Zoe is locked in her room crying every single day while Toast is terrified by the stress. I watched the timeline progress, and within 3 weeks, the burning rage in the messages began to dissolve into a frantic, chaotic bargaining. Please answer us, Emily, please, my father wrote, his tone completely stripped of the cold, dismissive authority he used to project at our dinner table. We didn't mean to ignore your achievements. We were always proud of you. We just thought you were strong enough to handle things on your own without our constant attention. The bank is taking everything. We had to sell the luxury car, and Zoe had to take a low-wage job at a local retail store just to help us cover the monthly interest payments. Please call the investigators and tell them it was a joint family agreement. We will do anything you want. We will make Zoe apologize to you in front of everyone. I didn't reply to a single word, and I didn't feel a single flash of malicious joy, because true liberation means reaching a place where the opinions of your abusers carry exactly zero weight. Their sudden, frantic affection wasn't born out of a genuine realization of the pain they had inflicted upon me during my childhood. It was born out of a primitive, desperate panic over the loss of the walking financial safety net they had spent a lifetime exploiting. They didn't miss their daughter. They missed the clean credit score and the quiet compliance that had allowed them to live beyond their means for decades. 2 years passed in a beautiful, uninterrupted current of pure professional success and absolute personal peace. I built a highly respected corporate consultation firm in my new city, surrounded myself with genuine friends who celebrated my intellect, and learned the true luxury of a quiet home. I bought a stunning, sun-filled brownstone with floor-to-ceiling glass windows that looked out over a peaceful courtyard filled with ancient maple trees. There were no frames dedicated to an entitled sister's vanity projects, and there was no suffocating silence designed to make me feel small. The final closure of my past arrived on a crisp autumn afternoon when a package was delivered to my office from the legal intermediary handling the final estate disclosures. My parents had been forced to officially sell their suburban home to satisfy the remaining balance of Zoe's fraudulent debt, moving into a tiny, rented apartment near the industrial district. Attached to the legal paperwork was a small, crumpled envelope containing a handwritten note from Zoe, her handwriting shaky and completely stripped of its old, arrogant flourish. I work 10 hours a day on my feet behind a grocery counter now, Rachel, the note read, her selective memory even getting my name wrong in her exhaustion. My mother has to clean houses in her 60s, and we had to give Toast away to a shelter because we couldn't afford his medical treatments anymore. I hope your cold revenge was worth what you did to this family. I held the small piece of paper over the wastebasket, letting it slip from my fingers without a single beat of hesitation or regret. The destruction of their household hadn't been caused by my cold revenge. It was simply the natural, mathematical harvest of the bitter seeds they had planted over a lifetime of cruelty. They had spent 28 years sacrificing the innocent child to feed the insatiable greed of the golden child, and they were finally being forced to live in the desert of their own creation. I walked over to the large glass windows of my office, watching the autumn leaves dance in the cool wind, a profound, permanent sense of serenity settling deep into my heart. If you are listening to this story right now, and you are the child who has been treated as a secondary ghost in your own home, I want you to hear me clearly. Your value is not defined by the absolute blindness of the people who share your genetic code, and your future is not a sacrifice that you owe to a toxic family dynamic. Strength does not mean letting people destroy your dignity for the sake of an artificial family unity that only serves the parasites in your life. True power is born the exact moment you stop begging for the validation of people who are blind to your worth, and you begin to use your own brilliant mind to protect your boundaries. My financial victory was a beautiful, flawless execution of corporate strategy that permanently shielded my hard work from the hands of thieves. But the true victory, the one that allowed me to look into the mirror every single morning with a peaceful, confident smile, was the freedom of knowing that I am enough. Home is not a geographic structure where you are forced to minimize your achievements to make insecure people feel safe in their arrogance. Home is where your boundaries are treated as sacred, where your hard work is genuinely honored, and above all else, home is where you are respected.